The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3 has been leaked, like entirely leaked. To the design, to the display changes, to the camera upgrades, to even some unique special features, we now know pretty much everything there is to know about the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3. A phone that will not only be the best foldable phone by far, but thanks to its much lower price point, I do actually see many people actually ditching their traditional smartphones in favor of the Fold 3. So get those snacks ready, and here's everything you need to know. Okay, so if you've been watching our videos for quite some time now, you probably know that I'm a massive fan of foldables. I was in love with the Fold 1 ever since I laid my hands on it, and then the Fold 2 was a colossal upgrade over that in every single way. However, the Fold 3 is sort of like a Fold 2S. If you already have a Fold 2, then there's almost no need to upgrade. In fact, I'm not even going to upgrade myself. But if you have a Fold 1, or you're simply just thinking of getting your very first foldable, then the Fold 3 is going to be by far the best option. Okay, so what you need to know is that the Fold 3 essentially comes with two big upgrades over the Fold 2, with the first one being S Pen functionality. So you know how Samsung has the Note line of smartphones, all of which have an included S Pen that you can take out whenever you want to write or draw something on the screen, and then you can easily slide it back in once you're done with it. Well, it seems like Samsung is actually not going to launch a Note 21 this year, and instead they're trying to actually phase out the Note line and focus on the Galaxy S and the Galaxy Z line, with the Fold 3 and the Flip 2. You probably remember that we actually got an S Pen with the S21 Ultra back in January, and that type of S Pen that we got was an external S Pen that couldn't go inside the phone, but was rather a separate accessory, sort of like the Apple Pencil is. Well, that's exactly what the Z Fold 3 is said to get. Not an Apple Pencil, but, you know, that fat S21 Ultra style S Pen. In a render posted by EveLeaks, who's had a great track record in the past, we can see the type of S Pen that we would be getting. Like I said, something that looks almost identical to the S21 Ultra S Pen, just with a Fold Edition engraving on top. So now you're probably wondering, why do we have that engraving? Does it actually mean that this S Pen would only work with a Fold 3? Well, I would say that is very likely. You see, all Galaxy Note phones have had a glass screen, or more specifically, a Gorilla Glass screen. The Z Fold 3, just like the Z Fold 2, will have a plastic screen instead. And before you go and say, oh, Daniel, you're wrong, it will actually be an ultra-thin glass display, or UTG, instead of plastic, because that's what we got with the Z Fold 2. Now, that's still true, however, the layer on top is still going to be plastic, just like on the Z Fold 2, meaning that if you want to scratch a Z Fold 2, or in this case the 3 with a fingernail, you can easily do that, and you will likely end up breaking the display for good. This S Pen was engineered to not damage the display at all, so I suspect that it has a very soft tip as opposed to the more rigid tip that we used to have on traditional S Pens. And because of this, I don't think it will be ideal to use on something like an S21 Ultra or a Galaxy Note. Like, maybe you would be able to use it, but I just don't think the experience on those phones would be great. But okay, what are my thoughts on the S Pen in general? Well, I think that even though this S Pen will be included in the box of the Z Fold 3, unlike it being a separate accessory like you had to purchase with the S21 Ultra, the fact that you won't be able to store it inside a phone means that you would always have to remember to carry it with you. On an iPad Pro, that is fine, as it magnetically attaches to the body. But on the Fold 3, unless Samsung implements such a mechanism as well, I just don't see many people being too bothered about the S Pen. Like, I certainly will straight up avoid using the S Pen if that will be something that I would always have to carry with me as a separate device. Not only that, but even when I was using the Note, although it did have the S Pen included, I almost never used it. I think I used it for the first few days as a novelty feature, but then I just pretty much never used it again. So my thoughts on something like the S Pen are that most people just won't use it, and the ones who will would likely want to have it built into the device. But let me know your thoughts on the Z Fold 3 having an S Pen in general, and definitely do consider subscribing, by the way, if you're new to the channel, for more interesting tech videos like this one hopefully is. And now, the second big new feature that the Fold 2 is set to come with is an under-the-display camera. You probably remember the gigantic notch that the Fold 1 had on the inside. The Fold 2 massively reduced that by having just a single hole-punch camera, similar to what you would find on Samsung's other flagship phones. And now the Fold 3 is set to remove even that in favor of a camera that would sit under the display. The only problem is that this technology is very new. In fact, there is only one single phone that actually uses this, that's actually been released and not a concept, and that phone is the ZTE Axon 20 5G. And we all know how the photos ended up looking. Pretty blurry, very soft, and just lacking contrast and overall punch. Yeah, not a great experience. Of course, this is Samsung that we're talking about, so I'm very certain that the quality would be much better than what the ZTE Axon 20 5G had. Great name, by the way. However, I would honestly be surprised if this camera quality comes close to that of the Z Fold 2 from last year. Like, I really do hope that it is close, but I do think that overall it will be a downgrade in terms of the image quality just because of how new this technology is. And here's the thing, I never thought that the punch hole camera on the Z Fold 2 was too big. Like, I never had any issues with it. So if I had to pick between a camera that was under the display but had a lower quality and one that was on top of the display but had a much better quality, I would of course always go with the one that had a better quality. And that's pretty much it in terms of the big changes, S Pen and the under the display camera. Now, there are a few smaller changes as well, which I do want to mention because I think some of you might really like these. With the biggest small change for me being that the back will finally have a frosted coating, which I've always been a massive fan of. We got this with the gold Note 20 Ultra. The S20 Ultra finally featured it on all the models, but unfortunately, the Fold 2 only came with a regular glass back. Having a frosted glass back means that you would not be able to see any fingerprints or smudges, making the entire usage experience much more premium than on a phone like this. The second biggest small change is the addition of a 120Hz refresh rate on the outer display, which was previously just 60Hz on the Z Fold 2. This means that both the external and the internal display will now have the same 120Hz refresh rate. Even though, personally, I don't really care about the external display that much, as when I'm using my Fold 2, I'm always opening it up to use that big internal display. But I guess that having the same refresh rate would just make them feel a lot more similar. Next up, we've had some leaks saying that the Z Fold 3 will be water resistant to some extent. I would absolutely love that because I always listen to podcasts on my smartphone when I shower, and I never dared to take my Fold 2 into the bathroom just because I was afraid of the steam and the humidity damaging it. Anyway, definitely don't expect a 6-meter water resistance like we got with the latest iPhones. I think that if they do indeed bring water resistance, it will be just splash resistance and nothing more than that. Other than that, the processor is getting upgraded from the Snapdragon 865 Plus to the Snapdragon 888 or even the 888 Plus, which has just recently been announced. That's cool, but again, I haven't really had any issues performance-wise with the Z Fold 2 or even the Fold 1. So, you know, always great to have faster phones, but in this case, I'm already happy with the performance of the Fold 2. Something that can always be better though is the battery life, which is actually getting worse with the Fold 3 from 4,500 mAh to allegedly 4,380. Now, I'm not sure why that would be unless the Fold 3 is also getting thinner, which I don't think it is. Like, I haven't seen any reports about this. I do hope that it does get thinner because the Z Fold 2, especially when closed, was an absolute chunk. And that was actually the main reason why, in a lot of cases, I just preferred using my iPhone, especially when I was on the go, because it was thinner, much lighter, and, you know, I didn't even feel that I was carrying a phone, whereas this basically felt like a brick. So let's talk about the camera. I have some pretty bad news here. So the camera module on the back is set to remain the same as on the Z Fold 2. The design is changing a tiny bit. I actually do prefer the design of this camera on the back of the Z Fold 2, but in terms of the actual quality and the modules, these are set to remain exactly the same. So 12 megapixels in resolution with the same main and ultra-wide modules as the Galaxy S20 and the same 2x telephoto module as the Galaxy S10 from 2019. This is what we also had on the Z Fold 2. The only camera that is getting a change is that under the display camera, which is being increased to a 16 megapixel sensor from a 10 megapixel one, which in turn means smaller 1.0 micron pixels as opposed to 1.22. So the low light performance is actually taking a hit here. The lack of camera improvements is really the most disappointing thing for me, as I was really hoping for some big camera changes and improvements with the Fold 3. Here's the thing, I absolutely love the Fold 2. The only things that I wished the Fold 3 would improve were, number one, the camera. Like, I was hoping for a periscope module to match the capabilities of the Ultra line. Number two, I wanted a thinner body when closed, because like I said, when this thing is closed, it's a chunk, it's very heavy, very thick. And number three, I also hoped for some sort of water resistance. And it turns out that out of these three wishes that I've had, we're only getting one of them, which is the water resistance, which even that doesn't seem to be exactly what I wanted, as it wouldn't be as good as on a known folding phone, which is, you know, understandable, but yeah, that's pretty much the Fold 3. More like a Fold 2S. However, there is one more thing that I haven't actually mentioned yet about the Fold 3, which is the price. This is actually rumored to be 20% lower than that of the Z Fold 2 when it launched. Now that is some awesome news. This would mean that the Fold 3 could start from $1,600 as opposed to $2,000, making it far closer in price to something like the S21 Ultra, which starts from $1,200, or at least it did at launch. Therefore, a lot of S21 Ultra buyers might look at something like the Z Fold 3 as an alternative. And having used both, I can, I mean, not the Z Fold 3, but the Fold 2 and the S21 Ultra, I can guarantee you that you would not regret buying the Fold, as this was by far the most fun and the most useful smartphone that I've ever used. But yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3? Are you actually thinking of getting one? If not, why not? Is it the price? I would probably assume so. And what do you think about foldable phones in general? Definitely check out our videos that we did on the Galaxy Z Fold 1 and the Z Fold 2, and definitely subscribe if you want to see some more foldable videos in the future. I'm Daniel, this has been ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.